He never imagined the woman he loved could be hiding something so devastating, something that could destroy everything he thought he knew. Who is she really? And what dark secret has she carried behind his back all this time? Tonight, every truth, every lie, every shadow will collide, and what he's about to discover will change their lives forever. David Matthews leaned back in his leather chair, the faint hum of the city outside barely reaching the quiet of his study. His life, on the surface, was flawless. A successful corporate lawyer, a stately home in the affluent suburb of Brookfield, and a wife whose beauty seemed sculpted from magazine pages. Emily Matthews moved through their house like a dream, smiling, graceful, and impeccably composed. Yet beneath that perfect facade, David felt the first stirrings of unease. Something was off. It began subtly, as the things often do. Emily would leave her phone charging in another room, eyes darting nervously when he passed. Sometimes a soft laugh in the middle of the night, muffled and hurried, would float from the kitchen, even though David knew she wasn't on the phone. Small, almost imperceptible cracks. The picture, perfect life they presented to the world. David's mind wandered to their wedding, a sunny day of laughter and promises, when Emily had whispered, forever, no matter what. He remembered the warmth of that vow, the intoxicating trust. But now a shadow clung to his thoughts. Was forever only an illusion? One evening, while Emily was in the kitchen, David noticed her phone on the counter. It buzzed with a message from an unknown contact. Curiosity gnawed at him. With a surge of apprehension, he picked it up, his pulse quickening. The screen revealed a photo, Emily smiling beside a man David had never seen. Their hands brushed lightly, intimacy hidden in the casualness of the pose. Emily's sudden presence startled him. "David, what are you doing?" Her voice, calm yet edged with something colder than annoyance, made him freeze. I just saw this," he said, holding the phone like it might burn his fingers. "Who is he?" Emily's smile faltered for just a fraction of a second. She stepped closer, softening her tone. "It's nothing, just someone from work." "You're overthinking again." David wanted to believe her, desperately. He wanted to tell himself it was innocent, but the unease had rooted itself too deeply. Something about the photo, the way Emily's hand lingered on the man's shoulder, planted a seed of doubt he couldn't shake. He spent that night tossing in bed, staring at the ceiling, listening to the house breathe in silence. The shadows seemed to stretch longer, creeping along the walls like silent witnesses to a secret he had yet to uncover. Every memory of Emily, the laughter, the whispered promises, the gentle touch carried a weight he could not name. The next morning, David watched Emily make coffee, her movements precise, almost ritualistic. A photograph of their wedding smiled from the mantel, a stark contrast to the knot twisting in his chest. He forced a smile. "Morning," he said, his voice steady. Betraying nothing, Emily returned the greeting, eyes glinting with warmth, unaware or perhaps aware of the storm brewing inside him. As he left for work, David's gaze lingered on her. There was something behind her eyes, a story she wasn't telling, and as the door closed behind him, he made a silent vow he would uncover the truth, no matter what it cost. But in that fleeting moment, neither of them realized that the photograph was only the beginning, a key to a series of revelations that would shatter the life they had built together. Hidden in the phone's gallery, unnoticed, was another image, one that would make David question everything he thought he knew about Emily. The man in the photo wasn't just a stranger. He was closer to her than David could imagine. David couldn't shake the image from his mind, Emily's hand brushing that stranger's shoulder. The photograph haunted him during every mundane moment, turning the familiar corners of their house into corridors of suspicion. Even the laughter of neighbors outside felt intrusive, a reminder of the life that might be slipping through his fingers. That evening, he waited until Emily had settled on the couch. With a book, the soft lamplight cast shadows over her delicate features, highlighting the slight tension in her jaw, a tension he had never noticed before. He tried to speak casually. "So, how was your day?" he asked, forcing a calm tone. Emily looked up, eyes bright but guarded. "Busy, as usual. You know how work piles up." "Yes, I've been thinking," David said slowly, choosing his words, "about us." "About trust?" Her eyes narrowed slightly, a flicker of impatience, or maybe guilt. "David, we've been over this," she said softly, closing her book. "Trust isn't a problem here. Don't let your mind play tricks." He hesitated, his heart racing. It's not tricks. I saw something on your phone. Her reaction was subtle but unmistakable, a momentary tightness around her lips. She didn't answer immediately. Instead, she leaned back, her hands folded neatly in her lap. The room was heavy with silence. David, sometimes the mind sees shadows where there's only light. She finally said, her voice calm, almost too calm, I can't control what you imagine. Her words, meant to soothe, had the opposite effect. They only deepened the rift between them, painting their shared spaces with suspicion. David could feel his own emotions fraying, love, fear, anger, and betrayal, all twisting together in a knot that refused to loosen. Later that night, unable to sleep, David wandered through the house. He passed the kitchen, noticing a half-finished cup of coffee left on the counter. A faint scent lingered, perfume he recognized as Emily's. But there was something different, sharper, almost foreign. His mind raced. Was it Mark, or someone else entirely? He thought back to small incidents he had dismissed as trivial. The late night walks, the hurried phone calls, the occasional whisper of a laugh he could never place. Each memory now seemed charged with hidden meaning. He realized how little he truly knew about Emily, how carefully she controlled what he saw. The next morning, David tried a different approach. He kept his questions casual, observing her closely as she moved through the routines of their household. Every glance, every hesitation, every shift in her expression became a puzzle he was desperate to solve. During breakfast, he tested her gently. You didn't go to the office late yesterday, did you? He asked, keeping his tone light. Emily paused, spoon hovering midair. Then she smiled, effortless and reassuring. No, just caught up with some work at home. You worry too much. But David didn't believe her. Something in the way she avoided his gaze, the slight tremor in her fingers, told him there was much more hidden behind her composure. He left for work that morning with a sense of urgency, a compulsion he could neither understand nor resist. He knew he needed answers, but he also knew he had to tread carefully. One wrong move, one accusation, and everything could crumble. That night, as Emily tucked herself into bed, David stood by the doorway, staring. She looked peaceful, almost serene, but the shadows beneath her eyes hinted at secrets she had buried deep, and for the first time, David realized that uncovering them would not only test their marriage, but also push him toward a truth he might not survive. When he returned to the living room, David noticed a small envelope slipped under the couch. Inside was a Polaroid, another photograph of Emily, but this time the man was holding something ominous, a detail that made David's stomach twist. Whoever this man was, he wasn't just part of a harmless secret, and David's life was about to be thrown into chaos. The Polaroid burned in David's hands, its glossy surface reflecting more than just an image. Emily stood beside the man again, his face partially obscured by shadows, but enough to send a shiver down David's spine. In his gut, he knew this wasn't just an innocent friend or colleague. This was someone who had stepped into their marriage uninvited, a stranger who had somehow become part of Emily's life. He spent the following day in a fog of obsession. Every spare moment was consumed by the photograph, by analyzing every detail, the curve of the man's jaw, the slight tension in Emily's smile, the way her hand rested in his. David's mind spun stories, some plausible, some terrifyingly far-fetched, each one feeding the gnawing anxiety that had taken root. That evening, he found himself pacing the living room, glancing at Emily across the kitchen. She was humming softly while arranging plates, her movements smooth, almost ritualistic. She hadn't mentioned the photograph, hadn't even seemed aware of it. Yet David felt the walls closing in. He couldn't ignore the truth lurking in plain sight. Unable to wait, he opened his laptop and began the painstaking task of tracing the image. Reverse searches, social media scans, even small details in the background of the photo, the pattern on the wallpaper, the street visible through the window, all became pieces of a puzzle he was desperate to solve. Each clue was a step deeper into a labyrinth he didn't fully understand, yet couldn't stop exploring. Hours later, David's investigation yielded a name, Mark Lawson. The name alone felt heavy, as if it carried a warning. Further searches revealed more: a professional photographer, a freelance consultant, someone whose work brought him into many social circles, including Emily's. But there were discrepancies, date, That didn't align, locations that seemed off, and a handful of vague mentions in local forums that hinted at controversy without details. David's thoughts spun faster. He remembered the subtle traces he had ignored until now: Emily's hurried whispers, the late-night errands, the unexplained bills. Each small anomaly, once brushed aside, now formed a dark constellation pointing toward something he couldn't yet name. That night, he confronted Emily, his voice taut with tension. "Who is Mark Lawson?" he demanded, holding the Polaroid like evidence in a courtroom. Emily froze, her hands pausing midair as if caught in invisible threads. Her calm smile flickered, replaced by something David couldn't read: fear, perhaps, or guilt. "David." "You found it," she said softly, her voice barely above a whisper. "What is going on? This isn't just a friend, is it?" His words were sharp but careful, a desperate attempt to uncover the truth without shattering what remained of their marriage. Emily looked away, tracing a line along the countertop. "You don't understand. It's not what you think. Not entirely. I can't explain everything yet. Some things. They're complicated." The weight of her words only made David's suspicion grow. Complicated. "Emily, I see the photograph. I see the signs. Tell me now, or I'll find out myself." She met his gaze finally, eyes dark with a mixture of sorrow and urgency. "If you dig too deep, David, you might not like what you find." Some secrets are meant to stay hidden. David's heart pounded. The room seemed smaller, the air thicker. He realized that whatever this Mark Lawson was, he was no ordinary stranger. He was part of a story Emily hadn't yet dared to tell, a story that might destroy everything they had built. Later that night, David received a message on his phone, an anonymous text, stark and chilling. "Stop looking, or you'll regret it. She isn't safe, and neither are you." The warning left him trembling, knowing that the stranger in the photos was no longer just a mystery. He was a threat. The living room was dimly lit, shadows stretching long across the walls as if reaching for the secrets David had unearthed. Emily sat on the sofa, hands clasped tightly in her lap, her expression calm but unreadable. David stood a few feet away, the Polaroid trembling in his hand. Every instinct screamed at him: confront, demand, unearth the truth, but fear gnawed at his chest. "Emily." His voice was low, deliberate, trying to contain the storm inside him. "I need the truth. Who is Mark Lawson, and what? What is happening between you two?" Emily didn't flinch, though her fingers tightened on the edge of the cushion. "David, it's not simple. It's never simple." Her voice was soft, almost musical, but beneath it lurked tension, a hint of desperation. David's heart sank. "Not simple. Emily, I saw the photos, the late nights, the messages. Every small lie, every secret. It all adds up. I can't pretend I don't know anymore." Her eyes glimmered with a mixture of sadness and fear. "You think you know, but you don't. Some things are bigger than our marriage, bigger than us. Mark, he's dangerous. I didn't choose him for anything romantic. I chose him to protect you, to protect us." The words hung in the air like smoke, filling the room with a tension that pressed against David's ribs. His mind raced. Protect us. From what? From whom? Emily looked away, tracing invisible patterns along the fabric of the sofa. "I can't say everything yet. It's not safe. You have to trust me. For now." David's fingers tightened around the photograph. "Trust you." "Emily, you've been lying, hiding things from me. How am I supposed to trust anything anymore?" She met his gaze then, her eyes pleading. "I never wanted to hurt you. Every secret I kept, every lie. It was meant to shield you. You have no idea what's at stake. And the moment you start digging too deep, things could go wrong. Terribly wrong." The room seemed to shrink around him. David could hear the distant hum of traffic outside, but it felt miles away, irrelevant. All that existed in that moment was the fragile barrier between them, one that threatened to crumble with the slightest misstep. He sank on to armchair opposite her, the photograph heavy in his lap. The man in it no longer seemed distant or harmless. He was a looming presence, a shadow that had crept into their lives without warning. David's mind replayed every late-night phone call, every hurried excuse. Each memory now carried the weight of suspicion and dread. "Emily," he whispered, voice raw, "if what you're saying is true, why hide it? Why all the deception?" She leaned forward, eyes glistening, the lamplight reflecting off the tears she refused to let fall. Because I knew that the truth could destroy everything, not just us, but our lives, David. And there's more. Much more that I can't tell you yet. I wanted to, I tried, but some things. They can't be shared lightly. David's chest tightened. The air between them seemed to pulse with unspoken tension. He realized that Emily's calm exterior was only a fragile mask, hiding fear, guilt, and desperation. And in that moment he understood. He was standing at the edge of a revelation that could unravel everything he had believed. As he reached for the Polaroid to examine it again, his phone buzzed. A message flashed on the screen, a video attachment. Hesitant, he opened it. The footage showed Emily, but not in their home, not with him standing beside Mark, speaking in hushed, urgent tones, and in the background, a shadowed figure watched them, unseen yet unmistakably present. The video ended abruptly with a chilling whisper, "They're watching." And it's only beginning. David's mind wouldn't rest. The video he had received the night before replayed endlessly in his head, Emily whispering to Mark, the shadowy figure in the background, the sense that danger was closing in. Sleep had abandoned him entirely, replaced by a restless drive to uncover the truth. Whatever secrets Emily carried, whatever danger Mark represented, he needed answers, answers that he couldn't get alone. By morning, he had made a decision. Sitting at his kitchen table, he opened his laptop and scrolled through private investigator services. He needed someone discreet, professional, capable of unraveling the threads Emily had hidden from him. Within an hour, he had arranged a meeting with a man named Simon Keller, a seasoned investigator with a reputation for solving complicated, delicate cases. Simon arrived that afternoon, a lean figure in a tailored suit, his eyes sharp and calculating. He carried a leather briefcase that seemed as heavy with secrets as David felt himself to be. "Mr. Matthews," Simon greeted, his voice measured calm. "I understand discretion is paramount. Tell me what you know." David handed him the Polaroid and recounted everything, the photos, the video, the mysterious messages, and Emily's cryptic warnings. Simon listened silently, occasionally nodding, jotting notes with precise strokes. "It's clear this isn't just a domestic affair," he said. "Finally, there's a pattern of deception, and possibly a threat that extends beyond personal matters. Who is Mark Lawson?" "I don't know him personally," David admitted, tension coiling tight in his chest. "He's in the photos with Emily. I traced some social media, but there are gaps, inconsistencies. Something doesn't add up." Simon leaned back, steepling his fingers. "Then we'll start with him. Background checks, surveillance, interviews, anything that uncovers who he really is and what he's capable of. I'll need full access to everything Emily interacts with. Messages, emails, work contacts. We move carefully. The wrong approach could push her further into secrecy or danger." Over the next several days, Simon's investigation revealed fragments of a story David could barely process. Mark Lawson was more than a freelance consultant. He had a past intertwined with criminal investigations, ties to underground networks, and a pattern of manipulation. Every seemingly minor clue, hotel receipts, anonymous mentions in forums, photographs with unidentifiable people, painted a picture of someone dangerous and strategic. David's chest tightened as Simon laid out the findings. "Emily may not be in danger by choice," Simon said quietly, "but by circumstance. Mark's presence is calculated. Someone or something is controlling how these interactions occur. It's deliberate, Mr. Matthews." As the investigation progressed, David began to see Emily's actions in a new light. The late-night meetings, the whispered phone calls, the cryptic warnings, they were not signs of betrayal, but perhaps of protection. Her calm facade, once maddening, now seemed layered with fear and calculation, yet every revelation brought more questions. Why would Emily hide Mark from him if she was protecting them? Who was the shadowed figure from the video? And most chillingly, was Emily's life in danger as well? One evening, Simon presented a breakthrough. A series of emails and scanned receipts linking Mark to a financial operation involving multiple individuals, some of whom had criminal records. "It appears he's involved in something bigger," Simon explained, "possibly extortion, possibly fraud. And Emily may be entangled in it, whether she wants to be or not. We need to find her, assess her involvement, and determine whether she's a victim or a participant. David felt a cold surge of dread. Everything he had assumed about his marriage, about Emily, about their life together, now teetered on a knife's edge. Trust, love, and fear were tangled into an almost unbearable knot. As night fell, David returned home to find the house unusually silent. Emily was nowhere to be seen, the bed untouched. His phone buzzed another message, this time just words, "You're closer than you think. But she's in danger. Act fast." The shadows in the house seemed to stretch longer than before, wrapping around David like a physical weight. He knew the next steps were crucial. Any miscalculation could endanger not just Emily, but him as well. Through Simon's latest surveillance footage, David saw Emily walking alone at night, approaching a parked car. The driver's silhouette was unmistakably Mark's, but as the car door closed, a second figure emerged from the darkness, moving silently behind them. David's breath caught whoever it was. They weren't supposed to be there, and they were watching. Emily moved silently through the house, every creak of the floorboard amplified in the stillness of the night. The dim light from the street lamps outside cut sharp lines across the walls, casting long shadows that seemed to whisper secrets she wished she could erase. David had no idea how close danger had crept into their lives, how tightly the threads of their world were woven with threats he couldn't see. She paused at the window, staring out into the darkness, her mind racing. Mark Lawson was more than a complication, he was a force she had tried desperately to contain. His presence wasn't born of desire or rebellion, it was necessity. He had information, leverage, a dangerous past that could unravel everything if mishandled. And yet, Emily had brought him into their lives, not out of love or betrayal, but out of fear, a calculated, suffocating fear that made every heartbeat a reminder of the stakes. Her phone buzzed quietly in her pocket. Another message, anonymous and curt. "Stop him from finding out, or all will be lost." Emily's hands trembled as she typed a reply, careful not to reveal too much. "I am doing everything I can." She pressed send and tucked the phone away, her thoughts spiraling. She remembered the early days of their relationship, the trust, the laughter, the illusions of safety. David had always been a constant, unwavering, but life had a way of peeling away the facades, exposing raw edges that no one expected. Emily had discovered Mark's involvement with dangerous people months ago, and every step she took since had been a tightrope walk between protecting her family and keeping herself alive. A soft creak behind her made her freeze. She spun, heart hammering, and saw nothing but shadows dancing on the walls. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a cage. Every room held memories of love, now tainted with the knowledge that one wrong move could bring devastation. She had kept secrets not out of malice, but because the truth was a weapon, and she couldn't afford to wield it recklessly. Emily sat at the edge of the bed, cradling a small, folded note she had hidden weeks ago. The handwriting was David's, hurried, anxious. She had intercepted it before he could ask questions, fearful that any hint of her secret would ignite his suspicion prematurely. "I'll find the truth," he had written, and he would, soon. She knew it. She thought of Mark again, of his quiet insistence, the way he spoke of plans that sounded both logical and terrifying. He had warned her repeatedly, "One misstep, and it won't just be you. Everyone you care about will pay." Emily had laughed it off once, but now she understood the weight of his words. The stakes were real, and David's probing presence had only accelerated the danger. A sudden knock at the door startled her. Emily froze, listening. There was silence. Then, barely audible, a voice whispered through the crack, "Are you alone?" She held her breath. Not Mark, not anyone she recognized. Someone else, unknown, unseen, but undeniably close. Emily's mind raced. She knew the time for subtlety was running out. Every secret she had harbored, every choice she had made to protect David, had brought them closer to a precipice. She had to act carefully, or everything would collapse. She slipped quietly from the room, moving toward the study where she kept documents, phone records, and encrypted messages. Her pulse quickened with the realization that the life she had tried to maintain the balance between truth and deception was unraveling faster than she could control. Every decision now carried weight. Every misstep could have irreversible consequences. As she opened a hidden drawer to retrieve a folder marked Mark, a shadow fell across the study doorway. Emily froze, heart racing. The silhouette was unmistakable David. He had followed her, silent and determined, unaware of the danger closing in around them. And now, for the first time, Emily realized, revealing the truth to him could either save their lives or destroy them forever. David sat in the darkened corner of his study, laptop open. Camera feeds flickering across the screen. Every shadow outside the house, every figure passing the street, felt like a potential threat. The Polaroids, the videos, Emily's cryptic messages, they had all driven him to this point. He was no longer just suspicious. He was consumed obsessively, analyzing every detail of her life. Each night, he reviewed security footage, trying to catch glimpses of Mark, the stranger from the photos. Every time he thought he saw him, his pulse surged, only to realize it was a delivery man or a neighbor returning home. Yet, the obsessive search had already started to erode David's sense of reality. The house, once a sanctuary, now felt like a labyrinth of secrets and shadows. He remembered Emily's words from their last confrontation. Some things are bigger than us. At first, he had dismissed them as excuses. Now, he wondered if she had been trying to warn him, to prepare him for a reality too dangerous to face blindly. The thought both terrified and infuriated him. Unable to wait, David installed tracking devices, pored over Emily's emails, and cataloged every interaction she had with colleagues, friends, and even strangers. Every pattern, every deviation became evidence in his growing obsession. He wasn't sure what he was searching for: proof of betrayal, or confirmation that he was losing control over everything he thought he knew. One night, he followed Emily as she left the house under the pretense of running errands. Keeping distance, he trailed her through quiet streets and dimly lit alleys. His heart pounded as she finally stopped at a small cafe on the edge of town. Through the frosted glass, he saw her speaking to someone, Mark. She appeared tense, gesturing with her hands, while Mark's posture was rigid, commanding. David's breath caught. He wanted to confront them, to demand answers, but a voice in his head whispered caution. Whatever danger Emily had warned about, it could erupt at any moment. His hands tightened into fists, knuckles white, as he observed the interaction. When Emily left the cafe alone, David followed cautiously. She didn't return home immediately. Instead, she wandered down side streets, glancing over her shoulder with the unmistakable air of someone being pursued. Panic surged through him. This wasn't an ordinary affair. Something was wrong, deeply, dangerously wrong. At home, he reviewed footage and messages again, noticing discrepancies he had missed before. There were moments when Emily's eyes seemed to search for someone behind him, someone he could not see in the recordings. A cold realization washed over him. There were forces at play that neither he nor Emily fully understood. The obsession reached its peak when he discovered another hidden email, one Emily had failed to delete. The subject line read simply, "Tonight. Don't fail." The message contained only coordinates and a brief note from Mark, hinting at urgency and peril. David's chest tightened, fear and anger collided. By the time Emily returned home, David was pacing the living room, barely breathing, adrenaline coursing through his veins. She paused at the doorway, sensing the tension that had transformed their home into a battlefield of suspicion and dread. "David," she whispered, hesitant. "You followed me." "I had to," he replied, voice tight. I can't ignore what's happening. You've been hiding things, and I need the truth now." Emily's eyes softened, but a shadow of fear lingered. "I can't tell you everything, not yet. It's not safe. You don't know who's watching. You don't know what could happen if the wrong person finds out." David's fists clenched. His obsession had consumed him, stripped him of patience, leaving only the raw need for answers. "Then show me. Just one piece, one truth. I can't live in the dark any longer." Emily's lips pressed into a thin line. For a moment, silence dominated the room, heavier than any words could carry. Then her phone buzzed an incoming call. She glanced at the screen, face paling. Outside, through the window, David noticed a shadow moving quickly across the yard. Not Mark, not Emily, someone else. The figure disappeared before he could identify it, leaving only the sense of looming danger. David realized with a surge of dread that the threats around them were multiplying, and their lives were about to spiral into chaos beyond comprehension. David couldn't shake the image of the shadowed figure from the yard. Sleep had abandoned him, leaving only the relentless pulse of fear and obsession. Each passing hour made it clearer. The danger surrounding Emily and Mark was no simple affair. Something far darker lurked beneath the surface, and David was determined to uncover it. He called Simon Keller first thing in the morning, urgency sharp in his voice. "Simon, I need everything on Mark Lawson, every record, every connection, every detail about his past. This isn't just about Emily anymore, it's bigger." Simon's reply was measured, calm, but carried an edge of concern. "I've been digging. Mark isn't just a consultant. He's been involved in criminal networks for years, fraud, black market dealings, and possibly extortion. There are gaps in his history where he disappears for weeks at a time. No records, no explanations. He's meticulous, calculating, and dangerous." David's chest tightened. "And Emily, why is she mixed up in this? What's she hiding?" "From what I can piece together," Simon said, flipping through files on his laptop, "Emily isn't an accomplice. She's protecting someone, probably you, from Mark's reach. But the more she engages with him, the higher the stakes. She's walking a tightrope over a pit of danger." The truth settled in David's chest like a cold weight. Everything he had assumed, betrayal, deception, infidelity, was only a fragment of a far more complex reality. Emily's secrecy wasn't malice, it was survival, and yet that knowledge didn't ease the fear clawing at his mind. That evening he confronted her again. They stood in the dim light of the kitchen, shadows stretching long across the walls, mirroring the tension between them. "Emily," he said, voice tight with urgency, "I know now. It's not an affair, is it? You're protecting me from him, from Mark." Her lips pressed into a thin line, eyes darting to the floor before meeting his. "Yes," she admitted softly, "but that doesn't mean it's safe. You have no idea what he's capable of, every move I've made, every lie I've told. It was to keep you from getting hurt if Mark finds out you're aware of the truth." David swallowed hard. "Then we need to face it. Together, we can't keep hiding, Emily. We have to stop him before it's too late." Emily shook her head, fear flickering across her face. "It's not that simple. Mark doesn't play by rules. He's smart, ruthless, and connected. One wrong step, and we both pay maybe more than we can survive." The weight of her words hung heavily in the room. David realized how little he had understood about the danger surrounding their lives. Emily's calm exterior, the cryptic warnings, the evasive actions, they were all shields, crafted to protect, to delay disaster. Unable to resist, he asked the question that had been gnawing at him for weeks. "Why didn't you tell me sooner? Why hide everything?" She stepped closer, eyes glistening in the low light. "Because I knew. The truth could destroy you before you were ready. And even now, David, I'm not sure we can control it. All I know is that we have to be careful, that the wrong move could change everything." David nodded, absorbing her words, the gravity of the situation settling over him like a heavy fog. Trust and fear intertwined, and the fragile balance of their lives teetered on the edge of disaster. As they spoke, David's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, dread rising instantly. A new message appeared, a single line, anonymous and chilling. "He knows you're watching. Tonight, he comes for her." David's stomach twisted. Outside, the city was quiet, but in that moment, he understood. Mark's reach was closer than ever, and Emily's protective walls were about to be tested in ways neither of them could anticipate. The night was unnaturally still. David sat hunched over his laptop, reviewing the latest surveillance footage Simon had sent. Emily's warnings, Mark's cryptic messages, and the anonymous threats all merged into a dizzying web of danger. Every frame, every image, every fleeting shadow seemed loaded with meaning. He could feel the weight of time pressing against him. The truth wasn't just hiding, it was racing toward them. Then, finally, something clicked. A detail he had overlooked in the videos, the angle of a car, a reflection in a shop window, a movement too deliberate to be coincidence. The pieces aligned. Mark wasn't just a dangerous man, he had a plan, one that involved Emily and, indirectly, David himself. He called Emily immediately. She answered on the second ring, her voice tight with tension. "David, what did you find?" "I know what he's planning," David said, his voice low but urgent. "Mark isn't just involved in some shady operations. He's after something, someone, and Emily. You're central to it." Emily's breath caught. "I was afraid you'd see it this way." she said softly. Yes, Mark's motives are dark, but I've been trying to contain it, to shield you. The truth is worse than you imagine. He's targeting more than me, he's coming for us both, and time is running out. David's stomach twisted. Then tell me everything. No more secrets, no more shadows. I need the full picture now. Emily's hands shook as she pulled a folder from a hidden compartment in the study. Everything I've done, every step I've taken, it's here, she said. Mark has enemies, people he's manipulated, people who would destroy him if they could. I became involved because he threatened my family, my life. He's ruthless, David. He'll lie, cheat, and kill without hesitation, and he's clever. Much cleverer than we realized. David scanned the documents, his eyes widening as he absorbed the network of Mark's operations. Financial transactions, secret meetings, connections to people with dangerous reputations. Each page revealed a man whose cunning and cruelty were almost unimaginable. Emily had been walking on a knife's edge for months, balancing her desire to protect him with the need to keep Mark's attention elsewhere. And the videos, David asked, the messages, the threats. Emily's face darkened, warnings. Manipulation. He's testing us, seeing how much control he really has, and he knows you're observing. That's why he's escalating. He's not just a threat, he's a predator, and we're the bait. The reality hit David like a physical blow. Everything he had feared, every suspicion, was only a fraction of the danger they faced. Trust, once broken and fragile, now had to be rebuilt not just between them, but as a weapon against. The threat looming over their lives, David's mind raced. Then we have to act. We can't wait any longer. We need a plan, Emily, and we need Simon. Emily nodded, her composure returning as fear mixed with determination. Yes. But we must move carefully. Mark is unpredictable. One mistake, one misstep, and it could be the end for both of us. David's hands tightened into fists. No more hiding, no more secrets. Tonight we confront this. Tonight we find the truth fully and end this. The room was silent for a moment, the weight of their impending actions pressing down like a storm. Shadows from the streetlight outside flickered across Emily's face, highlighting the resolve behind her eyes. For the first time, David saw not just a wife hiding from danger, but a partner ready to fight. Just as they prepared to leave for a meeting with Simon, the phone on the table buzzed. David glanced at the screen. An unknown number. A single message appeared. You know too much. Don't come. Then the call ended abruptly. The screen went black, leaving only silence and the unshakable knowledge that Mark was already one step ahead. The night was thick with tension as David and Emily drove through the city streets, the folder of Mark's secrets lying heavy between them. Every passing car, every shadowed alley felt like a threat. Their plan, carefully crafted with Simon, was simple in theory: confront Mark, expose his operations, and ensure he could never harm them again. But simple theory rarely survived reality. Simon had prepared a trap, surveillance, backups, and local authorities were on alert. But even with careful planning, David could feel the pulse of danger in every turn. Emily's hand brushed his arm, a silent reminder that despite the fear, they were in this together. Are you ready? She whispered, her voice steady but her eyes betraying the anxiety beneath her calm facade. David nodded, gripping the steering wheel, as ready as will ever be. No more hiding, no more shadows. They arrived at a remote warehouse on the outskirts of town, the place Simon had identified as Mark's latest hideout. The building loomed in the dim light, its windows dark, the air heavy with anticipation. David's pulse hammered in his ears. Every instinct screamed caution. Inside, Mark was waiting, as if he had anticipated their arrival. He stood casually, a faint smirk curling on his lips, eyes glinting with malice. So you finally decided to step out of the shadows, he said, voice smooth, mocking. I wondered how long it would take. David's hands trembled, but his voice was firm. It's over, Mark. All your manipulations, all the lies, it ends tonight. Mark laughed softly, the sound echoing ominously. Do you really think you understand what's at stake? You've seen fragments, David, but the full picture, you're not ready for it. Emily stepped forward, her eyes sharp. We've seen enough. We know what you've done, who you've threatened. It stops now. Mark's smirk faltered slightly, a flicker of recognition that his control was slipping. Emily, I trusted you to keep it contained, and yet here you are, dragging him into a game far beyond his comprehension. David's jaw tightened. This isn't a game. It's justice. And you're out of moves. A tense silence fell, the kind that presses on the lungs and makes every second stretch endlessly. Then, a sudden movement, a hidden door swung open, and several figures emerged, law enforcement, carefully coordinated by Simon. The ambush was precise, leaving Mark and his associates no room to maneuver. Mark's face twisted from smugness to anger. You think you've won. You have no idea the reach I have. One officer stepped forward. Enough, Mark. You're under arrest. Everything is documented, traced, and monitored. Your network collapses tonight. David felt a strange mix of relief and disbelief. The threat that had haunted them for months, the shadow over his marriage, was finally being contained. Yet beneath the relief, a twinge of betrayal lingered. Emily's secrecy, though protective, had kept him in dark, risking both their lives. As Mark and his associates were led away in handcuffs, Emily turned to David. I did what I had to do to protect you. You might hate me for the secrets, but they were for your safety, for ours. David stared at her, the emotional weight crashing down. I don't hate you, he said finally, voice rough, but trust. Trust will take time. You've risked everything, and I need to process it all. Emily nodded, tears brimming. I understand, and I'll wait, but for now, we're alive. We've survived. The warehouse, once a place of shadows and threats, now felt strangely silent, almost serene. Outside, the city lights flickered, marking the return of order from chaos. David realized that justice had been served, but the journey had exacted its toll. Trust had been tested. Bonds strained, and secrets had left scars that wouldn't heal overnight. As they walked toward their car, David's phone buzzed. A text appeared from an unknown number. You think it's over. But some debts are never paid. He glanced at Emily, whose face paled at the words. Despite Mark's capture, a lingering shadow remained, an unspoken truth that their ordeal might not be fully behind them. The city seemed quieter in the days following Mark's arrest. Traffic hummed, streetlights flickered in familiar rhythms, and the ordinary noises of life returned. Yet, for David and Emily, nothing felt ordinary. The adrenaline that had dominated their lives for months had faded, leaving a raw emptiness in its place. Relief battled unease, and the shadows of the past lingered longer than the light could chase them. David spent hours walking the house, touching objects that once symbolized normalcy. The kitchen table where they had shared meals, the sofa where they had watched movies, the bedroom that had been a sanctuary. Each item seemed tainted with memories of fear, secrecy, and betrayal. He realized that even though the external threat was gone, the internal scars were only beginning to heal. Emily watched him silently, sensing the storm that still raged beneath his calm exterior. She wanted to speak, to offer explanations, to soothe, but she knew words had limits. Actions now mattered more than promises. She poured coffee, leaving it on the table, and let him process at his own pace, knowing that trust, once fractured, could not be rebuilt overnight. Finally, David sat down, cradling his mug as if it anchored him to reality. It's over, isn't it? He asked, voice rough. Emily hesitated, then nodded. It's over for now. Mark is in custody, his network dismantled. But some things, some shadows never completely disappear. We'll have to live with the knowledge, with the consequences of the past months. David swallowed, the weight of her words pressing down. He realized she was right. Even without Mark's immediate threat, the emotional fallout, the secrets, the manipulation, the lies meant to protect him had altered the foundation of their marriage, and yet he couldn't deny the relief that survived alongside the unease. Over the following days, David and Emily worked in quiet synchronization, a subtle dance of rebuilding trust. Conversations that once carried